catch a 28-year-old guy who's at the top of his career, who's winning legitimate.
Jake Paul was just called out by Joe Rogan in a fiery episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. The UFC commentator didn't hold back, unleashing a verbal smackdown on Jake Paul for doing the unthinkable. With the highly anticipated Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight around the corner, the boxing world is buzzing more than ever. Every pro in the industry is eager to share their thoughts on this bout, but Joe Rogan took things to another level, tearing into the YouTuber-turned-boxer with his signature intensity. To kick off the excitement, Jake Paul and Mike Tyson held a thrilling press conference in New York City to ramp up the anticipation for their upcoming fight on November 15, 2024, at the T Arena. The hype surrounding this fight is at an all-time high, with fans and critics alike eagerly awaiting what could be one of the most talked-about boxing matches in recent history. The buzz is undeniable, and tickets are selling out rapidly, proving just how excited everyone is for this showdown. Thanks to all the trash talk and Jake Paul's dirty tactics, there's one moment that really left fans upset: Jake's blatant disrespect toward Mike Tyson. That's right, Jake Paul, in his usual bold style, decided to take a cheap shot at one of the greatest boxers of all time, and it didn't go over well. Fans quickly took to social media to express their outrage, calling Jake out for crossing the line. But it wasn't just the fans who were fuming. Joe Rogan was too. In classic Rogan fashion, he didn't hold back, absolutely tearing into Jake Paul for his disrespectful comments. Rogan made it clear that Mike Tyson is not just a legendary fighter but a cultural icon. His strong words echoed the sentiment of many who believe Jake went too far with his actions. Mike Tyson earned his place in history through sheer grit and determination, and if there's one thing Joe Rogan won't tolerate, it's a young fighter trying to make a name for himself by belittling a legend. In the latest episode of his podcast, Rogan didn't hold back. Having seen it all in the fight world, he knows exactly what's at stake with Jake Paul's recent antics and his looming clash with one of the greatest of all time, Mike Tyson. Joe made it clear that this isn't just another fight, it's a defining moment for Jake Paul. Rogan laid it out in brutal detail, questioning whether Jake has the discipline, respect, and most importantly, the heart to step into the ring with a legend like Tyson. To Joe, this fight is more than just entertainment, it's a test of Jake's character and his place in the sport. Jake Paul's legitimacy as a boxer is on the line, and if Joe Rogan's words are anything to go by, Jake has a lot more to prove than he might think. Throughout the press conference, Jake was clearly getting ahead of himself, talking without giving his words a second thought. Trash talk is a big part of hyping up fights, everyone knows that, but when you're sitting across from a legend like Mike Tyson, there's a line you don't cross. Jake bulldozed right over that line, treating Mike as if he were just another influencer opponent, completely ignoring that he was facing one of the most feared and respected fighters in boxing history. It was almost as if Jake forgot who he was up against, thinking he could get away with the same antics he has pulled on other social media opponents. This time, though, his disrespect has drawn serious backlash. Mike Tyson isn't just any opponent, he's a living legend, and the kind of trash talk Jake Paul was spewing came off as not only disrespectful but downright reckless. It wasn't just about building up hype, it felt like Jake was trying to diminish Tyson's legacy, which didn't sit well with fans or Joe Rogan, for that matter. When you're up against a fighter like Mike, there has to be some level of respect, even in the heat of the moment. But Jake had none, and that's where he seriously messed up. Now the problem child is making big talk and bold claims, but let's be real, deep down, he's absolutely terrified of Iron Mike. It's a classic tactic, trying to get inside his opponent's head with bravado, but the fight world sees through it. Jake's antics might backfire, especially when facing a boxing icon like Tyson. The fight world has seen right through Jake Paul's facade from day one. He's been acting like he's got this fight under control, as if he's already won, but if you really pay attention, you can see the sheer terror in his eyes and his desperate attempts to hide it behind all that tough talk. Jake knows that stepping into the ring with Mike Tyson is a whole different ball game. This isn't just some YouTuber or influencer he's up against, this is a man who has been a force of nature in the boxing world for decades. That's got to be terrifying for someone like Jake, who's still trying to prove himself as a legitimate fighter. Remember back in March when the internet exploded with the news of this epic showdown? A YouTuber turned boxer going toe-to-toe with the legendary Iron Mike Tyson. All set for July 20th, it's a match that caught everyone's attention. In 2024, the announcement of Jake Paul facing Mike Tyson felt like a page ripped from a fever dream or a nightmare. Talk about a clash of generations. It was a shocker because no one ever imagined Paul in the same ring as the boxing legend. But it was real, and the hype was massive. We Gen Z were excited, while the older generations were skeptical, but everyone was talking about it. The potential for knockouts and the huge payday made this fight seem like it was going to be bananas. The excitement was through the roof. Then BAM news broke that Tyson had a medical emergency, and the fight was off. Some folks were devastated. Some were genuinely concerned about Mike Tyson's health, but let's be real, the timing was a bit suspicious. The internet went wild with speculation. Was this a legitimate medical issue, or did Jake Paul get cold feet? Did his team somehow orchestrate the whole thing? If you believe Joe Rogan, it was all Paul. The UFC commentator is now exposing the YouTuber turned boxer for his role in the cancellation. Jake, never one to stay silent, fired back, claiming the fight was called off because of Mike's health. He insisted he didn't want to risk it and didn't want to force Tyson into the ring under potentially dangerous conditions, deflecting the blame from himself. Jake Paul claimed he pulled the plug on the fight to give Mike Tyson more time to prepare, stating he didn't want to force the legend into the ring if his health wasn't up to it. Big words, Jake. Whether it's genetics, sheer dedication, or the benefits of modern medicine, there's no denying that Mike Tyson still looks like a force to be reckoned with, and it's clear this has Jake trembling in his boots. Jake's big talk is just a smokescreen, a way to hide his fear and convince himself he's ready for what's coming. But the fight world isn't buying it. They can see right through the act and know that, beneath all the bravado, Jake is more scared than he's ever been. The fight is officially set for November, and here's the kicker: Mike Tyson's health is solid. With Mike Tyson looking better than ever, Jake Paul can't escape this showdown. Now he's doing everything he can to save face. Word is Jake is already saying he'll retire if he loses to Tyson, hanging up his gloves for good. But let's be honest, this fight is a lose-lose situation for Jake. If he somehow manages to win, what does it really mean? Beating a 58-year-old Tyson, who's been out of the prime fighting game for years, won't give Jake the validation he's hoping for. Sure, there would be some buzz, but people will say he only managed to beat a washed-up legend. That kind of victory won't have the impact Jake is aiming for. Victory over Tyson doesn't hold the same weight as beating him in his prime. The narrative would quickly shift from Jake Paul defeated Mike Tyson to Jake Paul beat a 58-year-old past his fighting days. It wouldn't be the crowning achievement Jake might imagine, but more of a hollow victory that the fight world would quickly move past. On the flip side, if Jake loses, a very real possibility he's in for major humiliation. Losing to a man pushing 60, no matter how legendary, would be a massive blow to his career. The memes and mockery would follow him, making it a tough defeat to live down. Headlines and social media fallout would be brutal if Jake Paul loses. His entire persona is built around being the young, brash up-and-comer who can take on anyone, and a loss to Tyson would shatter that image. So what's Jake really gaining from this fight? One thing.
What do you think of this Jake Paul fella?
I always say that if Jake Paul...
Things for sure, a hefty payday and some time in the spotlight. But at what cost? His credibility as a fighter is on the line, and no amount of money can buy back respect once it's lost. As the fight date approaches, it's the hottest topic, with everyone from boxing experts to casual fans eagerly discussing it. Everyone can't stop speculating about how this showdown will play out. Will Jake Paul finally meet his match in Iron Mike, or will he somehow pull off a win and add Tyson to his list of victories? One thing's for sure, this fight will be one for the history books. Whether it becomes a career-defining moment for Jake or marks the start of his downfall, the world will be watching. Jake still has a long way to go in solidifying his status as a legitimate boxer, but his recent actions are doing the opposite. Instead of earning the respect he desperately needs, he's risking further damage to his reputation. Jake Paul is craving respect from the boxing world, but his moves are only pushing him further away from the sport's true insiders. Let's be real, the boxing community doesn't respect Jake as it is. His fights against other influencers and MMA fighters haven't convinced anyone that he's a serious contender. Now, by disrespecting a legend like Mike Tyson, Jake is digging himself into an even deeper hole. This latest stunt isn't just making people dislike him, it's making them downright furious. It's not just fans who are fed up. Experts like Joe Rogan are also outraged. Rogan, known for his blunt opinions, isn't shy about calling Jake out for his antics. Joe Rogan, who knows the sport inside and out, has made it clear that Jake Paul's behavior is unacceptable and only proves he's not ready to be taken seriously in boxing. Jake's actions are doing more harm than good, and if he continues down this path, he might find himself completely shut out of the sport he's trying so hard to break into. We'll have to wait and see how everything unfolds. So there you have it, Fight World. That's all I have for you today. What are your thoughts on Jake Paul getting called out by Joe Rogan? Fill in the comments section with your opinions, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more boxing news. See you in the next video.